Good morning. It is 7:05 a.m. On Monday, August 17th, 2020. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. So, back to a more normal schedule this week, which is good just because I feel like a lot of the things that I've kind of had keeping me, you know, I don't want to say sane like I'm not sane now, but a lot of the things that I enjoy in my routine didn't end up happening last week. We just like a lot of the. I don't need to elaborate on that, I guess. And then also just some personal stuff that's just like I don't. It's not the right forum to get into any of it here, but yeah, it's got me. But at the same time, I did discover a new TV show I like. So let's talk about it. I finished watching the 2 seasons of the Harley Quinn cartoon show on HBO Max, which is also good, although that's not the show I was planning to bring up. And then I also watched the first episode of Lovecraft County, or excuse me, I don't know why I keep wanting to say county, it's country. Lovecraft Country, which is a new HBO show. And at least as the first episode, I enjoyed it. It's obviously intended to be a show where, part of its mission statement is to include black voices in horror pulp adventure stories where they have traditionally been excluded. And I think that's great. Obviously, I don't have the personal background to weigh in on like how authentic it is to that experience or anything like that, but it has a lot of good people in the writers' room, and I enjoyed the first episode, and I'm planning to watch more. But the show that I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about in depth is Doom Patrol, which I've still only watched about 2/3 of the first season. But the thing that keeps like coming to me as I watch it is uh, I read someone say that it's the show that Umbrella Academy is trying to be. Now, obviously, if you haven't watched Umbrella Academy either, or even know anything about it, like that's a meaningless statement. But here's what I would say about Umbrella Academy. There's 2 seasons of it that I watched and enjoyed, but there is occasionally a feeling like I like all of the things that are happening here on paper, and I like a lot of the execution, but it doesn't ultimately all necessarily feel like it holds together with a core that's meaningful. The basic premise of Umbrella Academy is that you have this group of kids raised as a superhero team, but under their stern taskmaster adoptive father, they all develop various emotional baggage, and then the show picks up with them as estranged adults reuniting because the father has now died, and them discovering a web of secrets and mysteries that involve each other, and them having to get over their emotional issues in order to stop the apocalypse. And then, and there's lots of, sort of very comic booky stuff in there. They each have their own superpower and so on. And it's good. I like it, but it does feel, like I said, just a little bit less cohesive. By contrast, Doom Patrol is the story of a bunch of people who are, unusual in some way. Like you could say they have powers, but these are things about them that are frankly as much or more a hindrance to them than they are like useful power that they could do something with. So, for example, we have Cliff Steele, who is a race car driver, kind of redneck type that is in a automobile crash and is basically now only just his brain inside this sort of metal robot body. And he's not happy about it. He did not choose that, but here he is. And then we have Larry Traynor, who is, used to be like a Air Force test pilot, but had a lot of his own personal issues. And then he was horrifically burned in a strange accident where, he's left with burns over most of his body to the point where he wraps himself head to toe in bandages every day. But he also has some vaguely understood radiation-based power that seems to be caused by this energy being that's living inside him and was what caused his accident, and seems to have mysterious intentions of its own, that it doesn't communicate very well, because when it leaves his body to do what it wants to do, he goes unconscious, and he just basically wakes up again when it comes back. So and then you have Jane, who, aka Crazy Jane, who has dissociative identity disorder, with multiple, personalities that each kind of have their own superpower, which, if she were able to just control those powers at will, would be extraordinarily useful. But she's not, and some of those personalities that have those powers are not helpful, and frankly, the different personalities cause as much or more trouble than help most of the time. And then you have Rita Farr, who is, a Hollywood actress who is very insecure, and when she starts feeling insecure and vulnerable emotionally, her body literally starts to just melt into like a blob. And she, so none of these characters are like happy about their situation, but they've lived for a long time in this one house, where they've just been kind of given a safe place to exist and be. But the person who runs that house, who was played by Timothy Dalton, has some mysterious secrets of his own, and when he is apparently kidnapped by a strange, enigmatic villain going by the name of Mr. Nobody, who seems all-powerful, ? They're kind of forced to come out of this little safe space they've had and try to find him, and in doing so, they have to sort of re-encounter the world for the first time. And that is a show where just watching these, self-described broken toys trying to figure out how to navigate the world and trust each other. And early on, Cyborg, who has, sometimes been in the Teen Titans, was one of the characters in the recent Justice League movie. He shows up and has issues of his own, because he also knows this guy who's disappeared. And just the relationships they have with each other, are frequently pretty antagonistic, and the characters have a lot of angst, even amongst themselves, about are we heroes? I don't think so. Not really. We're trying to find this guy because he's our, we care about him, but we kind of end up having to save other people, and we are a little complex about that. And then they also have just their own self-loathing that kind of would prevent them from ever being able to see themselves in positive ways. But ultimately, they're kind of they become this little, found family, and I don't know, I'm really liking it. So I'm excited that I have a lot more to go, because the first season at least is 15 episodes, which feels like a strange length, but I'm not complaining. And so I'm 10 episodes in, and I'm glad there's more to watch. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it there and talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.